Taylor, if you would like to introduce the news that kind of recently popped up about you.
Yeah, no, well, I am definitely excited to be kind of in the driver's seat, if you will, this episode. So we're letting you do your thing, and I won't ask myself questions, but so yeah, I'm really excited that the news came out that I'm gonna be racing the Indy NXT oval races for ABEL Motorsports this upcoming season. So it's Indy next first season since 2013 to have more than two oval tracks on their schedule. And so definitely going to capitalize on that. We'll be racing at Iowa, Milwaukee, Gateway, the day after the Silver Crown Cars race. So that'll be cool. And then Nashville just moved to the Super Speedway. So I'm really excited about that, like four different race dates and getting exposure and a different type of car. Hopefully it leads to additional opportunities. But, I'm really just grateful for this opportunity to start with, and really grateful for Bradford Allen and ABEL Motorsports for, believing in my ability and giving me this opportunity. And, I have high expectations. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of excited. Obviously, this will be more of an organic conversation between the two of us, but I am excited to step into journalist mode just a little bit and ask you some questions about this. First and foremost, how long have you been thinking about doing this? Because obviously most people probably know your background is pavement sprint cars and, dirt track world. Like, where does Indy NXT come in?
So greater context, ever since I was, growing up, I come from a late model stock car family. And so when I started racing and I was going up the ranks, NASCAR was like the epitome of what I wanted to do. Our lives kind of revolved around it in a way. And so that was kind of the path that I wanted to go. So, I started late model racing when I was 15, 16, along with my open wheel stuff. And then, I did some ARCA stuff with Venturinis in 2013 when I was 17. But Lyn St. James honestly really introduced me to the whole Indy Lights, IndyCar route when I was 15. And she took me to my first carb day. And we walked under the pagoda, like onto pit lane, and all the cars were getting ready to go out. And it was something that just gave you the chills instantly. And so it's something that I always have kept on my radar. And, I've always been really open-ended since I was a kid about, I've always said that I just wanted to race for a living. And so, I didn't care if that was NASCAR, IndyCar, or the World of Outlaws. But fast forward to the present, obviously I took some time off there and, kind of maybe lost sight of what my purpose was in motorsports because, went to a regular university, had a regular day job there, for 4 or 5 years. And then, when I came back, I've honestly been working on this for the past 2 years. So, when I came back racing and then, I started having some success right off the bat in the Silver Crown stuff and winning sprint car races and finishing on podiums right away. I was like, I feel like I'm trying to serve a greater purpose here and I know I can do so much more. And so, I knew the step to like getting to the 500 was Indy next. And so, just getting seat time in a rear engine car like the Indy Lights cars are is going to be a challenge in itself. But, I have the work ethic and, I'm surrounded by the right people and I have the right connections to make sure that I'm utilizing the proper resources to get me prepared. And, I'm ready for this challenge and, I'm just really excited about it. So, I'm a student of the game and I'm always learning. And so, to really answer your question, this is something I've been working on really since I was a kid, but specifically for the past 2 years. So, I'm just really glad that the deal finally came together. I was starting to lose sight there for a hot second during the off season. I was talking with a bunch of different teams and no, but just really grateful for the ABEL group and I'm excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm not all that, tied to the IndyCar world. Like, it's been at least probably 10 to 15 years since I went to an IndyCar race. Like, I was just a kid. We went to Sonoma, camped, watched IndyCar. So that was like my first and pretty much only experience watching IndyCar racing. And back then, like, I thought it was the coolest thing. And then
Yeah.
just kind of lost track of it over the years. Now that I'm back with Speed Sport, obviously it is kind of part of our coverage. So I pay some attention to it. But I'm curious, you mentioned that first time Lyn St. James took you to, Carb Day. What was it exactly, I guess, that enthralled you so much about IndyCar racing, or what interests you the most kind of about just the like pure racing side?
Yeah, well, I think initially, the cars, they're single-seater cars. So they're really the most comparable to what I race now in my sprint car, my Silver Crown car. They're single-seater, open wheel, low weight, high horsepower. The Indy Lights car is about half the horsepower of my sprint car, but similar weight ratios. And so, we'll work with the 400, 450 horsepower, but it'll be like a glorified midget, right? But no, so I guess in that way, single seater open wheel cars, like it's gonna be the next step, like Indy cars and Indy Lights will be the most similar to what I'm doing now. And that was something when I went stock car racing, as kind of like obvious, or like this may sound or stupid, or however people might want to refer to this as, but when you go stock car racing and you've been racing single seater cars and you sit in the middle basically your entire career, and then you go race a stock car and you're sitting on the left side, that's a transition in itself.
I never thought about that, like sitting on the left side of the car versus the center. Like you just kind of, I don't know, I guess I glaze over that.
Yeah, it's definitely something you don't think about until you rub your right sides in the wall there a few times, and then you're like, oh, that's why they call them taxi cabs, right? You got a whole other seat next to you. But
So is it mainly
um
just like spatial awareness, or like what do you have to do to adjust to sitting on the left?
yeah, no, so yeah, really it's just spatial awareness. I mean, it's
Okay.
really for me, as far as like overcoming adversity and adapting to things, like it was a quick transition, but sometimes it's just something you seem to overlook, like when you're mentally so cognizant about just sitting in the middle of the car, and
Yeah.
you don't have as much space, whereas like literally in a stock car you have like double the space. And so I picked up on it quickly, but it's something that you don't really think about. So I guess as far as like going to the next level, that's the similarities between what I do now and then like the Indy cars and the Indy Lights cars. But I think other than that, I've the past couple years since this was a route that I felt like I was choosing to follow, I tried to go the stock car route before, and I was like, oh, we'll try something different. And it's also something not only I attribute to Lyn St. James, but Brian Clausen did it before he passed away. He did the Indy Light stuff, and then he got licensed to race the Indy 500, and he did that a couple times. And so USEC used to be a feeder for IndyCar like back in the day. And then like Sarah Fisher raced sprint cars and went the IndyCar route, and then Brian did the same thing. Obviously before that he went NASCAR racing. And so I think also the history of like USAC being a feeder going into IndyCar racing was something that really intrigued me too, because I am a history nerd. But
Obviously, you know your stuff. I
yeah,
was listening to
yeah,
you and I was like, man, she really knows.
yeah, no, I mean, I know myself. And so, but outside of that, the past couple years I've spent a lot of time privately around like the IndyCar teams, the Indy Lights teams. I've been working with Delara. And I've been to a handful of Grand Prix the past couple years, and I went to the 500. And there's something special about watching the Indy cars go around a track. I mean, they're like spaceships, but they're honestly, it's a spectacle, especially the Indy 500. I mean, there's a reason why it's called the greatest spectacle in racing. And so I think that's just something other than the history to latch on to. I'm really excited about the opportunity and trying something new. And honestly, I feel like this was just it was something that was meant to be. If I was to go into all the stories and like the things of divine intervention, that's pretty crazy that have just kind of come together to make this happen. And so I'm ready to just take full advantage of this opportunity, because I feel like it's also like part of my second chance. So
So you
yeah.
mentioned the Indy 500 several times now. I'm sure you're taking this step by step, one thing at a time, but is that something eventually on your mind is that a dream of yours? You want to start in the Indy 500?
Yeah, 100%. I've been trying to
Love it.
manifest. I've been trying to manifest this, and you know what? The art of manifestation, it works. It honestly